The first thud landed after dusk, heavy enough to rattle the ridge but clean enough to leave no mark. I was clearing the trail near my uncle's cabin, stacking brush and flagging turns with neon tape when the roof took the hit. No prints in the frost, no broken shingles, just a sound like a fist dropped from the sky, followed by a pause that made the trees lean in. I waited for laughter or wind. Nothing came. Why would something hit a roof and leave nothing behind? I told myself it was a falling branch. I told myself a lot of things. I was 16, paid to keep paths open and the place tidy while my uncle was away. The mountains had their own rules, and most of them were about staying busy. The second thud came an hour later, same spot, same weight, same nothing. I climbed the ladder with a flashlight and found the shingles cold and perfect. When I climbed down, the flagging tape I'd tied that afternoon was no longer straight. It had been twisted into loose spirals, each loop centered on the cabin like a slow, careful drawing. I retied the tape and went inside. The floor felt wrong, as if it were floating a fraction above the earth. I stood still and listened. Something ground below the boards, a patient scrape that moved in short pulls. I pressed my ear to the planks. The sound stopped, then resumed farther away, as if whatever made it had learned where I was. Curiosity burned hotter than fear. I marked the noise with chalk and told myself I'd check the crawl space at dawn. At night, the ridge has a way of testing your nerve. Wind rises and falls like breath. Owls call from impossible distances. I lay on the couch and counted thuds that didn't come. When sleep finally took me, I dreamed of tape turning on its own, curling into shapes I almost recognized. I woke to the smell of damp earth and found the chalk marks smudged into a line that led to the door. Outside, the flagging tape had moved again. The spirals were tighter now, their ends tucked like signatures. I radioed my uncle. No signal. I took photos, the camera glitch-filled, each image blurring at the center. The grinding returned mid-morning, louder, closer. I followed it across the cabin, my boots thumping like an accusation. Beneath the floor, something dragged itself, stopping when I stopped, starting when I did. I dropped to my knees and felt vibration through the boards, a slow insistence that suggested weight without shape. By noon, the ridge went quiet, too quiet. Even the creek seemed to hold its breath. I found grooves in the dirt behind the cabin, long arcs pressed deep and clean, as if a heavy body had been pulled away on a sled that left no tracks of its own. The grooves led downhill and ended at a bald patch where the ground fell away into nothing. Beyond that edge was sound, roaring silence, the kind that fills your head until you can't hear yourself think. I backed away. The thud came again, closer this time, not on the roof but against the side wall. The cabin shuddered. No prints, no dent. I felt watched from everywhere at once. The tape fluttered without wind and rearranged itself into a new spiral, tighter than the last, its center pointing at the floor beneath my feet. I understood then that the place wasn't random, it was arranging me. I tried to leave. The truck turned over but wouldn't catch. I popped the hood and found nothing wrong. The radio hissed and died. I should have run. Instead, I checked the crawl space. The hatch resisted, then opened with a sigh. Cold rolled out. The beam of my flashlight cut through dust and found the grooves continuing under the cabin, deeper here, gouged like fingernails dragged by something too patient to rush. The grinding stopped, the silence roared. Behind me, the hatch closed. I pounded and yelled. The thud hit above my head, closer than ever, and dust sifted down like ash. Panic sharpened everything. I forced the hatch with my shoulder and spilled back into the room. The tape had formed a perfect spiral on the floor. It centered directly over the spot where the grinding had been loudest. I stepped back. The boards bowed just a little. I remembered stories my uncle told when he thought I wasn't listening, about ridges that keep themselves clear, about sound that knocks to see who answers, about leaving markers straight so the mountain knows you're passing through. I had twisted the tape. I had redrawn the paths. I had stayed. The consequence landed with a clarity that hurt. If I stayed, the ridge would finish arranging me. If I left now, I might carry something with me, or lose something I couldn't name. Another thud. The wall flexed. The roaring silence pressed in, flattening thought. I grabbed my pack and tore the tape down, straightening what I could, ripping the spirals into lines that pointed away from the cabin. The grinding resumed, angry now, faster. I ran. The grooves guided me downhill, a warning and a path. At the bald patch, the sound swelled, then cut off like a switch thrown hard. The air snapped cold. I didn't look back. When I reached the road, the truck started on the first turn. I drove until the ridge fell behind me, and the noise in my head eased into ordinary fear. I never went back. My uncle said the post was abandoned. He said another kid took the job and quit by nightfall.